Hello, everybody. We are presenting our two dashboards. So here for you today, we have two dashboards. They are both about smoking and the tobacco industry and how they function in countries and across the globe in general. So this is our first dashboard. It's pretty basic. We have a map of Africa, and it's colored in by how many deaths per 100,000 are caused by smoking. So if I hover over a country, it's cool. You can see in the tooltip, we have a line chart time series representation showing how smoking deaths per 100,000 people have changed from the early 90s until more recent times in the 21st century. And you can use this for each one and just see how the trends have been. And there's a lot of downward trends, as we would expect, because smoking's kind of gotten a bad rep recently with all the health concerns with respect to it. So yeah, this is the first cool thing. And then also you can click on Asia, and now it'll switch maps. So now we can take a look at China and Myanmar, and we can just do this for every continent that we have. And yeah, so if you're interested in any particular country, you can just select any continent. This requires you know which continent it's in, but yeah. And we're going to use South America as our case study. So here we can say that Brazil is pretty dark. It has a large amount of smoking deaths per 100,000. A country like Ecuador is not so dark, and they have a lot less deaths per 100,000. So try and remember that. That's like our case study for this presentation. Now we move on to our second dashboard. This is showing country by country how the tobacco industry is sort of represented. So in the top right, we have a map. It is also a heat map, much like the one previously, except this is showing how strong each country's regulations on tobacco advertisements are. Countries like Australia, Russia, they have a 5 on the quote-unquote tobacco advertisement index, which means you can see it in our tooltip, but it says that they have a complete ban. So it is completely illegal in a country like Russia or in Brazil to have advertisements for tobacco. But a country like America, which has a 2.0, doesn't have any bans. It's perfectly legal. So besides just being a visualization in and of itself, this is where all of our dashboard interactions happen. So as we said earlier, this shows you country by country. So I can click on Brazil here, and the entire rest of these charts will change based on Brazil. So you can see in this middle chart here, we have every single country in our data set here. It's a stats bar chart. When we click on Brazil, it will change. So first of all, our country will be highlighted, and it'll filter to just include the countries that are in Brazil's continent. So here we have all of South America, and this is useful because we can compare Brazil to its immediate neighbors. So here we have a stats bar chart showing the average price of a cigarette. So in Brazil, the average price for a cigarette of a cigarette pack is about $2.85, but $1.83 of this is from taxes. So Brazil has taxes, and this drives a hefty amount of the price of a cigarette. But you can see that it's fairly average compared to the rest of South America. If you recall our case study, you would remember Ecuador. I click on Ecuador here. Has about double the price of Brazil. So the cost of a cigarette pack in Ecuador is almost $6. And you can see that it may be having an effect. If you look at the bottom right, we show you how the usage of tobacco has changed over time. You can see in the year 2016, it's cutting off here on my recorder, but it says 7%. If I were to click on Brazil, there you go. If I click on Brazil, it's 14%. So maybe it is due to the high degree of taxes that Ecuador is placing on cigarettes that's driving this reduction in usage. I don't know this for sure, but that's one thing you might be able to recommend to a government based on this dashboard. Additionally, on the bottom left here, we have a bullet chart. And this is in reference to 2013 when the World Health Organization set a global target to reduce cigarette usage by 30%. So here we have included Brazil's bullet chart. So this black line here is their goal. So their goal is Brazil's goal is to reduce its cigarette consumption by about 2.5, 2.3%. And this shows that they're only about 0.5% reduced. So they kind of have a long way to go. But it's only been a few years, and they have until 2030. So as the years go on, and if we were to update this, we could see this bar maybe approach this black line. Another valuable insight you can get from this is looking from our original map. Here, Brazil is dark, which means it has a complete ban. But it's hard to see, but Ecuador is pretty dark, but not as dark. It has a 4.0 on the index, so they don't have a complete ban. And yet, you can see from our charts here that they have far less usage. So even though Brazil has tighter restrictions, Ecuador has lower usage. So another insight that you can grab from this is maybe that higher restrictions on advertising isn't the right way to go about things. Maybe Brazil could use its money better if they would try and help people quit or use rehabilitation services rather than being restrictive on the drug itself. Finally, if you wanted to learn more about Ecuador or any other country on our chart, say Algeria, you can click on the country, and this will bring up a little link on the tooltip, and it'll bring you to the CIA World Factbook page, where you can look at Algeria and all the statistics you want to see if you can gain more insights about Algeria and its smoking habits. Maybe you can compare their GDP or their status as a low-income country and see if that affects their smoking habits. Yeah, this is our dashboard, and thank you guys for listening.